There's a whole lot going on. A lot of very cool and interesting art sales that really have just kind of happened over the past couple of days. But I'll give a quick overview of the market as I've done, for a few weeks in a row now. We had 5 weeks in a row where volumes were rising, and it really kind of capped off with Gordon Goner's buying spree last year and all kind of the other buys that went along with that. This past week was down, so we were down about 30% in terms of volumes versus the week before. This year looks at unique buy wallets, and I think this is just kind of an interesting chart because as everything has fluctuated, like buy wallets really hasn't moved, and I think that's something that a lot of people say when we get these rallies. People are waiting for more buy wallets to be participating in the space. Even so, there are 25,000 unique wallets buying ETH NFTs every week on secondary exchanges. So it's not nothing, but I think that is something that a lot of people, a signal people are looking for to get more positive. Prices down a little bit. I think that the Gordon Goner rally really pushed things. The Simpsons.
It was so
Gordon
awesome
Goner.
he did that.
Yeah,
I just love that he stepped up and bought a bunch of great art. It's fantastic.
There was such a halo effect for the whole marketplace around that, and I think we've come off a little bit from that. If you look at the different projects, here's mid cap. So the smaller stuff down, went up a little bit more, down a little bit more this past week. This looks at the different projects. Captains is up. I think the meme coin has just completely kind of defied gravity, up to about a $2.5 billion fully diluted valuation. And then a lot of the projects that kind of really rocketed last week, like Cool Cats, Doodles, Gutter Cats, have given some of that back. In terms of art sales, a couple big Fidenza sales. So we went from very few Fidenza sales in October. I think there have been 4 or 5 in November. A Chromie Squiggle, beautiful 6 color spread, sold for 16 ETH. Danny Seedphrase bought a Meridian, a yellow and black Meridian for 10 ETH, and then a Protoglyph sold just in the past 12 hours for 10 ETH. So those are a few of the cooler generative art sales. Here, we've already talked about this project by Helena Sarin, so I just wanted to highlight that. The next slide looks actually at the traits.
There it is.
For the mugs. Yeah,
there it is.
The mugs.
So even the mugs have rarity, from like the Aztec mug to the whiskey cup, et cetera. But I think that's congrats to Eli. Having it all sell out so quickly is just so awesome. Another theme this week was Starry Night selling NFTs start to holders, and some of it unknown, some of it known. Prices tended to be unknown, but Curated bought one of these prime Meridians, that one on the far left, the blue one from the Starry Night portfolio.
Wow, it's beautiful.
These are so cool. There are only 8 of them, and it's just this very rare Meridian. That one on the right is owned by 6529, and that was bought for 200 ETH.
Wow.
The blue one that Curated bought was bought by Starry Night for 80 ETH. So for Meridians, these are serious prices. And the middle one is another one. Curated now owns a quarter of them, owns 2 of the 8. So that was a cool sale to see.
Derek, do you own any Meridians?
I do have some Meridians. I like this collection.
I don't know how many I have, but I probably have 20 to 30 if I had to guess.
What do you want me to say?
I love it.
It's a great collection. The thing that I think is most notable about it is that this was actually not an Art Blocks curated collection.
Yeah.
And the values of it are right up there with some of the top Art Blocks curated collections. It's got a ton of staying power.
It actually wasn't curated because Subscapes, you had to wait a year, and Subscapes had just gone, and Meridian has surpassed Subscapes, which is also great generative art. But it is interesting that Meridian recently has surpassed Subscapes in terms of floor price. And that next slide, wanted to talk about it because I do think for the culture, the rocks are interesting. A Bitcoin rock selling for 110,000 ETH. Later in the day, an Ether Rock sold for 100 ETH, $209,000. So always interesting when I think these are just like the classic meme NFTs. So when they move for 6 figures, you got to mention it.
So what's the deal with? I've heard a little bit about these Doge rocks.
Yeah. So Doge
shout
rocks
out to, by the way, shout out to Dalton, who's in the crowd. He's never in the comments.
Is the whale of the Doge.
Yeah,
rocks.
I mean Dalton. I love Dalton. If you're watching, we love you. I miss you. Can't wait to hang again. But Dalton picked up a Doge rock, right? So Doge has its, obviously like Bitcoin, because it's based on the same infrastructure as Bitcoin. It can also have its own version of NFTs baked into the blockchain. It has rocks as well.
Yes. Yeah. Everything you said is true. From my understanding with Dalton though, and I talked to Word Eddie a fair bit. It's still pretty primitive though. You have to interact with people on Discord to get trades done. It's not like you don't have a Blur marketplace where you can go buy them. So it's a bit more primitive. But
what is a rock going for?
Well,
not that these are the Bitcoin rocks, but what
the Doge,
the Doge rocks, yeah.
I think like $1,000 to $1,500.
All right, so I have a serious question for you. Is the Doge rock a bridge too far?
100%.
Well, no, it's a bridge to Doge Rock.
Kevin's excited because you must have like 1,000,000,000,000,000 trillion Doge, right? Because you were the original Doge.
I used
Doge
to have
king.
a lot of Doge, but I don't have any more Doge.
Oh, I
do
thought
not
you
have
were
any more
just
Doge.
like looking for ways to
I'm
spend
not,
your
dude,
Doge.
I'm not pumping Doge. I would like to, I think that this is interesting. Like a Doge, if you're going to have a chain that's all about meme related NFTs,
Gotta get the
why
rocks
shouldn't
on
it be
there.
Doge?
You got to get the rocks on there.
Yeah, get the rocks on there.
Yeah.
That was what I said to Dalton. I said, look, like some of the stuff is kind of meant to be stupid, meant to be silly. I'll use the word silly because I tell my kids not to say stupid. It's meant to be silly. Doge is meant to be silly. Rocks are meant to be silly. And sometimes that does really, really well, as you can see by these 6-figure sales. So who knows? Interesting stuff. I'll get through the last couple slides here. This piece, ETH Boy by Trevor Jones and Money Alada just sold for 200 ETH. This was an NFT minted over 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago. It was sold 3 years ago for 260 ETH. So it is down from that price in ETH terms, but in US dollar terms, it's actually up because ETH was only $500. It's the art changes with the price of ETH. Kind of one of those 2020 vintage pieces and really huge. I mean, the 200 ETH in this market is just massive. And then lastly, this is kind of going back to that Starry Night theme. A portfolio of a handful of NFTs were sold for an unknown price to an unknown buyer. But in this, I think
fits in here.
so many of these were originally bought by Starry Night for 200 to 500 ETH, a few X copies, a few Dimitri Cherniaks, a couple Grail Fidenzas. So you have to, for people who I think have who've been around 2 to 5 years, these are some of the biggest sales that have happened before, and they got bucketed and sold from
Let
the
me
Starry
ask you a
Night
question
portfolio.
about this, Sam. I mean, clearly not a ton of new wallets coming in, but a ton of activity at the top end of this market. What is this saying to you?
I say a few things. I agree and I disagree. I think the number of wallets of participants in the crypto ecosystem who have just kind of like bailed on NFTs a little bit have been coming back. And there have been NFTs where I've not been shy about my view that kind of like the fundamentals of Blur and stuff weren't really friendly to NFTs. And I sold a bunch a few months ago that I'm like maybe now is a good time to think about buying again. So I think there are a lot of people like me who are coming back. The high end, I'd say, has always been there. I don't think it really left as much. If you look at one of the crazy, like I was saying this on a show yesterday with proof holders. When I was doing my show in early January, I wouldn't talk about one of ones that sold for less than 10 ETH. There was just enough stuff happening just at the beginning of the year at 10 ETH or higher in the one of one space that those were the sales I covered. Right now, we're going weeks without anything above 6 ETH. So I would say like the one of one space has been slow, but I think I'd say the biggest buyers though never left and they're still around. And when opportunities present themselves and we don't know the prices these went for, like I think that buyers, it was in the depth of the bear that the goose went for. 6 million plus, so some thoughts on that.